At the time I'm recording this video, we're around a month out from the expected Fenix 8 announcement. Now if you've been watching the channel, you know that we're looking at 4 variants of the Fenix 8 and no Epix 3. Now if that's news to you, then definitely take a moment to check out this video. Around a month ago, I made a video about the late August announcement date, and that date has since been corroborated by multiple retail sites leaking out pages, putting them live before they're supposed to. So hey, shout out to all the haters in the comment section that said I was way off with the date and putting out clickbait. I see you guys. In the original video I made about the Fenix 8, back when I still thought there was going to be an Epix 3 on the way, I made my own list of features I'd want to see and asked you about what would be on your list of killer features that would make the next edition a buy for you. And the comment section on that video was awesome. So thank you to everyone that took some time to share their thoughts about that. I thought it'd be fun to go over some of those comments and see the most wanted feature list for the Fenix 8. So let's go. Okay, so the comment with the most upvotes was a bit surprising to me. David All72 or David AHL posted that they wanted wireless charging for the watch, and that got voted up 31 times at the time of making this video. So I personally throw my Epix on the charger while I shower, get dressed, and that's almost always enough to keep it around the 80 to 85% charge mark, unless I'm in the middle of a big training block and it might need a little more time. So we're talking about a typical range of 15 to 20 minutes charging per day. I always kind of felt like wireless charging was for a watch for those people that don't do any sleep tracking, so they want to kind of throw it on the nightstand along with their phone at night. So I looked up the charge time for the Apple Watch Ultra 2, which has been on the market for quite a while. And they have an advertising charging speed of 60 minutes to go from 0 to 80 and 90 minutes from 0 to 100. And those charging times are for a 564 milliamp hour battery size. Now on the other hand, the Epix Pro will charge to 80% in around 100 minutes and takes a whopping 170 minutes to charge up to full from 0 to 100. I searched around for the milliamp hours of the battery in the Epix Pro, but kind of came up empty with any official numbers. So if you know the battery size, please do me a favor and throw it in the comments. So it seems like the charging technology for wireless charging is plenty fast, so maybe I'm just wrong about this and people want to not plug another thing in. They don't want to have a port that's another point of failure for another product. So I have to admit I've gone through a few charging cables as I've had the charging pins corrode after not fully drying the watch before charging. Anyways, is that something you're interested in? I don't mind plugging things in, but maybe I'm just old school. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. Is this the biggest feature request that people want on the Fenix lineup? Okay, so shout out to the second highest upvoted comment, who's Vinchun609, who requested to be able to open up beers with their watch. And yeah, that sounds like a true MacGyver device, and that sounds amazing, but kind of ridiculous, right? But well, hold on just a second, you thirsty runners, you. Look what I found here. There's a patent that's almost a decade old to have a bottle opener built into a watch band. And who says American ingenuity is dead? Hey, when you finish a long run, sometimes putting down a cold one just hits the spot right. Okay, back on track. It seemed like a very frequent comment was to get LTE or some level of cellular connectivity or some sort of phone-like functionality on the watch, with some additions or variations of that being the desire to be able to compose text, as well as wanting to have a mic or a speaker to make actual phone calls or dictate texts. Now I've said it before and I'll say it again, for me any sort of LTE connectivity is an instant buy. The ability to be reachable by my family, and as horrible as it would be, my job as well, without bringing my phone on a long run would be amazing. Garmin hasn't put LTE in a sports watch since the 945 LTE, but of course they do have the more recent watch in that kid-focused bounce watch that does come with LTE. And I did like the idea that I saw somewhere, and they had an idea to put a satellite distress button into the watch. This might be an expensive addition, but something simple that reaches out only to either predetermined numbers or even just emergency services that sends an SOS message with coordinates. Having that as a charge per use, or maybe a low monthly subscription service that you could turn on or off, kind of like inReach, would be amazing and a real differentiating factor for a watch that is supposed to be the do-it-all outdoor adventure watch. Now that kind of connects into my next point here. There's a lot of comments that steer the Fenix towards more smartwatch heavy functionality, which, if we're being honest, is where it falls short against more mainstream brands like Apple or Samsung. Those sorts of features do come with the trade-off of battery life though. Being constantly connected to a phone does drain battery much quicker. Some feature requests, like having a simple way to download music and podcasts, or having an updated UI and the ability to sync with third-party software like Apple Health instead of just Garmin Connect. The already mentioned requests for wireless charging, requests for microphone, requests for speaker. I'm not sure if Garmin is trying to compete directly against these giant brands and their more mainstream functions, but is that something that would attract you to the Fenix 8? I think it's safe to say that Fenix 8 will be more advanced, or at the very least more comprehensive as a sports and fitness tracker than any other mainstream smartwatch. So do they address their weaknesses, ramp up smartwatch functionality, and appeal to a broader demographic in that way? On the one hand, they do have the Venue lineup series that kind of addresses those things, but on the other, the Fenix is supposed to be the do-it-all flagship for them. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that one. Now, the other direction that people wanted to see for new features stays a lot more in the competencies where Garmin has established themselves as market leaders. Comments like increases in accuracy of GPS and heart rate sensors. Now, I think the current multi-satellite GPS chip is pretty accurate, and optical heart rate sensors will always have some issues when compared to using an actual heart rate strap. And I also wanted to highlight a user by the name of Tool Craze who had a pretty darn good list, so I wanted to kind of go over what they said here. Let's see, they're looking for a new Climb Pro Explore feature, which is something that their X40 and newer Edge units have. A more accurate grade percent detection, that's an interesting one. 2 weeks always on display for the Epic series. And I'm sorry if Tool Craze didn't see the other video, there won't be an Epix, but I mean, maybe it's all semantics. There's going to be a Fenix with an OLED screen. 2 weeks is more than double what the current battery life is for always on, which is 6 days. So if they could more than double the battery life, that would be amazing. Don't see that coming, but hey, it's a feature wish list, so why not? They're looking for a much brighter flashlight of around 65 lumens or brighter. And they get into some sensors here that I think are pretty interesting. Blood pressure sensor, a glucose sensor, and a lactate sensor. And they also point out some of the other smartwatch features, like other people have said, having a speaker instead of just a beeper for being able to do actual audio and calls. And a pretty unique one here, they want a bike bell sound. So yeah, they're definitely cyclists. That would be pretty interesting to kind of hit a little bring bring on the watch. So those are some meat and potato Garmin features if I ever saw them. That's an awesome list, and thank you for sharing, Tool Craze. I want to hone in on the 3 sensors that they mentioned because I thought those were pretty interesting, and I always want to build in more tech on these watches. So the blood pressure monitor is something found on some Galaxy watches and some other standalone blood pressure watches. So the technology is there, and I've seen videos where they compare it with an actual cuff against the Galaxy watch, that is, and it was pretty accurate. So it's there. It's not very popular, but that would be a pretty neat addition. Now I did look up glucose monitors, and it seems that Huawei launched a glucose monitor in their smartwatch over a year ago in the Watch 4, but it was only as a beta test that you had to be accepted into, and only in China, and it wasn't continuous monitoring of glucose levels, but rather a warning if your glucose was read as being high. So basically the technology is not thought to be very accurate or reliable or really available right now. So if you need to actively monitor your glucose for something like diabetes, it would not be wise to rely on watches using optical sensors. The closest similar and reliable technology is a dedicated wearable like the Dexcom that can be read by a smartphone or a smartwatch. Now finally, a lactate sensor would be absolutely amazing. Using lactate threshold to set aerobic zones is the preferred method to be sure you're getting the appropriate training effect from your runs or rides. And when I looked into this, the technology is getting close but not quite there yet. I found 3 companies though. I found IDRO that was supposed to launch a few months back, but they're still not out yet, so I guess they're not ready to come to market. I found the Lingo from Abbott, which is a well-known manufacturer, and it's currently available in the UK as of right now, and there's a wait list for US residents. And finally, I found the Katrack made by PK Vitality, which apparently has a functioning product and they're waiting for medical approvals before getting to the market. They have a video up that makes my production look like cinema, so it will be interesting to see how the product does. And from what I saw online, the rumored price is going to be $199 with a $90 per month subscription fee, so I mean, yikes on that. Anyway, given that dedicated devices are just starting to hit the market, I think we're quite a few years out from having this sort of technology thrown into smartwatches, but it will be an absolute game changer when it arrives. But in the meantime, having support for these sort of patch wearables, or, I mean, Garmin used to make, or maybe they still make, the running pod. You know, making small add-on accessories isn't out of their wheelhouse, so if they could either support something like that, or even maybe buy one of those companies and start incorporating technology, that would be amazing. That would be next level as far as smartwatch functionality. So this would be kind of like the other path that Garmin could go down with the Fenix lineup, to continue down the path of being a leader in health, fitness, and sports tracking, basically doubling down on their strengths. Focus on improvements in GPS accuracy, battery longevity, introducing new health metrics, and hopefully in the near future, new sensors as well. Keeping smartwatch functions present, but limited, and aiming to kind of keep their crown as the athlete's watch. Do you think Garmin has a strong enough presence in this niche to hang their hat on and ignore more mainstream features? Or do you think they'll slowly lose market share to more mainstream smartwatches as they become more capable sports watches? And they also have their competitors nipping at their heels in the sports watch space, where companies like Coros, Polar, and Suunto have pretty compelling offerings. Now, this whole video has been about what you think would be the best features, so I want to hear what you think about these lists. Sound off in the comments and let's hash it out for the last month that we have before the Fenix 8 is officially announced. And hey, if you're maybe considering a Fenix or possibly an Instinct watch, going back and forth, the Instinct 3 may have recently leaked, and I covered the controversial new design in this video, so it's worth taking a look to see where Garmin design may be headed with the Instinct lineup. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Dave, and this is Dave Does Fitness. Have an awesome day and stay fit.